Now, Joe Biden, speaking of lies and disinformation and misinformation, Biden held a virtual press conference on Monday. I'm not sure if that means he was on the computer or he was a virtual being on a computer. Not sure. Monday, he said that in advance of the data that's scheduled to be released on Thursday, I can confirm the economy is not going to go into a recession. Worried Americans should not be worried that we're in a recession, because we're not going to be in one, in my view. I love that he added, in my view. And the reason why he says, in my view, is because he says, just because you have 2 quarters of contraction does not make it that you're in a recession. Well, okay, technically, sure. 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth is something that they use to determine whether we are in a recession or not. And the people who decide if we're in a recession is the National Bureau of Economic Research. They're the ones that determine whether we're in a recession or not. And they have a whole bunch of metrics. But the 2 main ones are that we've had 2 quarters of contraction.
Right.
Now, I want to say it isn't always like that. In the last 10 recessions that we have, the GOP has contracted 2 quarters in a row. Oh, no. So it is always like that. Huh. Okay.
Just 10 of the last 10, though, in GDP, yes.
Yeah.
10 of the last 10. Not a big deal at all. No trend. I don't see any trend there whatsoever. It's also, by the way that we talk about recessions when they're occurring. The reason why it has always been shorthand for a recession. And the reason why is because we can talk about them when they're going on. If you remember back in the 2008 financial collapse, you had Bear Stearns early in 2008, if I remember right. And then you had Lehman Brothers in October of 2008. And that was, when the real collapse felt like, oh my gosh, this is really happening, September or October 2008. And so even then, the government was not saying we were in a recession. They waited until later on. And then when they said there was a recession, which I think was in December of 2008 or January of 2009, I can't remember exactly. But when they said they were officially in a recession, they said we had been in a recession since December 2007. Before Bear Stearns. So, it's basically a historic view as to when a recession begins. And so what the Democrats love about this approach is they can stick on this, well, officially, that's not the definition. And then they can wait till after the election when they actually will come back and say, oh, by the way, we were in a recession way back there before the election. Please don't talk about it until it's official. It's a nice little scam they're trying to pull here, but every financial journalist has been talking about this, 2 consecutive negative quarters of GDP as the shorthand definition of a recession forever, and they're just trying to reverse that today.
Here's the thing that I think people know. 4 in 10 adults say that it has been somewhat or very difficult to cover usual household expenses. This is in a survey that was put out. That's the highest since the census started asking this question in August 2020. It implies that more than 90 million families are struggling now, up from 60 million just a year ago. Hey, has your life gotten better under Biden or worse? Millions of households with student loans are expected to face an additional monthly expense on September 1st when a COVID moratorium on servicing that debt ends. By the way, did you see that he is telling that Biden is telling the government loan offices not to send out the pay stubs to people who just got a student loan? Don't send them out. Just hold off for a minute. Why would you do that?
I don't know. Why would they do that?
I think he's going to try to forgive all these student loans in September.
Right before the election.
Right before the election. In Dallas, for example, the share of respondents having difficulty paying bills jumped to about 45.9% from 27.9% a year earlier. The report last week from the New York State Comptroller showed that 1 in 8 residents were behind on paying their utility bills as of March. More than 1.2 million customers statewide owed $1.8 billion, with the residents of New York City and Long Island accounting for 68% of the total. So this means that the average person is feeling a recession. So call it what you want, Joe. Everybody knows because we're feeling it. By the way, do you remember who Nouriel Roubini is, Stu?
Yeah, the economist. Yeah, Dr. Doom. That's right.
Yeah. He was the guy, they called him Dr. Doom because he was the only other guy that was calling for the 2008 collapse. I had been calling for it for about 2 years, and I think he jumped on the bandwagon. That Christmas is the first time I saw him talk about it, was the Christmas of 2007 as it's leading up. And I'm like, oh, finally somebody else is saying it. He says we're not going to have a recession. He says a recession being shallow is a pipe dream. He said the economy is headed for a severe recession as well as a severe debt and financial crisis. He said debt ratios are historically high at 420% for advanced economies and climbing, while bailouts during the pandemic have resulted in zombie corporations that put the economy at risk. He says the idea that this is going to be short and shallow is total delusion. We also have the extra added benefit of trailer parks being bought up all over the country. Trailer parks are being purchased by big Wall Street fat cats. I swear to you, these people have no idea. They have no idea what they're in for. So these corporate investors, private equity firms, and firms like BlackRock, Real Estate Investment Trust, they've gone out and purchased mobile home parks, and they're raising the rents on the tenants. Most of these people are elderly or disabled, low fixed income. Out-of-state purchases in Minnesota almost doubled between 2015 and 2021. 46% of the state's mobile home parks purchased by an out-of-state company in 2015, and 81% of them purchased from out-of-state people 2021. The rents at these parks went up by as much as 30% at the same time. The state AG says the complaints of mobile home parks has gone up 100-fold. 100-fold. These people, they have no idea how Americans actually feel about their country and about Wall Street and big banks. They have no idea. God bless them. Hopefully they will wake up soon.